But to scale the business takes much more than just offering a great product or experience. It takes the technology, the real estate and design and construction processes behind that, operations. There's a lot of finance, legal. There's a lot of things. And most of the time, these entrepreneurs, they don't like to do that.
Hallo und herzlich willkommen zurück zu einer neuen Folge des Made in China Podcasts. We switched to English straight away. Our guest today is Raphael, who has a remarkable career journey that has taken him from managing fast food giants to founding his own scaling business. Raphael's path is intertwined with WHU Otto Beisheim School of Management, a prestigious German business school that both he and also Damian attended. In this episode, we dive into Raphael's unique experiences, from his adventures with Popeyes and Burger King to his insights on scaling businesses in China. Stay tuned because this is an episode packed with inspiration, career wisdom and a dash of humor.
Made in China. Von der Werkbank der Welt zum größten Konsumentenmarkt und Technologieführer. Eine Reise durch das Leben, Business und die Kultur im Reich der Mitte mit Damian Maib und Thomas Derksen.
A very warm welcome and many greetings from Germany to Shanghai. Today's constellation is Damian and Raphael are in Shanghai and me, I'm in Germany for a week enjoying German very cold summer. It's 11 degrees today. In Shanghai, it's around 30 degrees, right?
I think so, isn't it?
Yeah, Shanghai's getting warmer now.
Yeah, absolutely. Warm and humid.
So, Raphael, we already talked about it. You got to know me through a video online, like a lot of people do. I was doing a video for Popeyes before, and you said even if it was not a paid cooperation with Popeyes, because I knew Popeyes. I love it. I had it in the US before, so when it opened in Shanghai, I went there and made a video. And you said it was received very well internally at Popeyes when you still work there, right?
Yeah, definitely. Well, first of all, thanks for inviting me, guys. It's happy to be here. And yeah, you're right. The first time someone came to me, we had just launched the brand a couple of weeks after the first store, I believe. And someone said, "Hey, did you watch the Afu video?" And I said, "No, what is that?" And it was actually, if I'm not mistaken, quite long, maybe around 10 minutes. It was really a nice, genuine content. I actually watched it multiple times and started showing everyone.
Now you even mentioned our company name. That's perfect.
Right, exactly. And I remember you had, I think, an American friend that went there, like representing like an American that was trying the food, and you interviewed the people. You spoke in Chinese with all the customers that were there. I still remember you're asking them like, "Hey, do you really pai dui? Do you really stay in the queue when these new brands are launched? And why do you do that?" So it was really insightful video. Yeah.
Cool. So we will talk a little bit more about your career and about your life path later. But all of the fans of our podcast know that we always start our talk with a little game. It's called the A-B game. We will ask you questions, A or B, and you answer as quick as possible, whatever comes to your mind. Damian, let's begin.
Oh, wow. Okay.
All right, Raphael. Yeah, I caught you cold here. So again, a lovely welcome. We know each other also since many years, right?
Yes.
Met here in Shanghai at our WHU in Praxi event. But let's start right away with the first question. Chinese or Spanish?
Chinese.
USA or Germany?
Germany.
Whopper or Big Mac?
Whopper, for sure.
Beach or mountains?
It's a hard one. Beach.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Fitness or relaxation?
Fitness.
Gym workout or outdoor exercise?
That's a tough one too. If I have to pick one, I'll pick gym. It's more practical.
Yeah, we are very famous for tough questions. So, online shopping or in-store shopping?
In-store.
Oh, okay. Netflix or Disney?
Netflix.
Fine dining or street food?
Street food, 100%.
That's good to hear. So we are, this is a very interesting podcast because it's about all the topics I love. It's at first about personal development, career. Then it's about food. We are talking a lot of hamburgers today, one of my favorite foods already. And it's also about fitness because for me, like doing fitness is, I do a lot of sports so that I can eat more. So we are very happy to have you here and learn from you today, Raphael.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And so the one thing that gave you strength to climb up the career ladder is burgers, obviously. You worked for Burger King before, and your last position was the CEO of the famous Louisiana kitchen Popeyes that we just mentioned, and after you've done the great video. So congratulations for that again. Awesome journey. That's why we have you here. And what would the 20 years younger you say if you told him where you are today?
Oh, wow. You guys are really good at the tough questions, I can see. Well, first of all, you mentioned about burgers fueling my career. But a funny fact is when I interviewed for Burger King, I went to try my first Whopper the day before. I'm not a fast food guy at all. Although I love a burger like Thomas, but I would go, I wouldn't go to McDonald's or Burger King. I just didn't have this culture. So I would say what gave me strength to be in this ladder was the international growth and scaling process. I was always in love with scaling brands. So another connection with Germany is before I joined RBI, which is the group that owns Burger King, Popeyes, and these brands. I actually worked for Rocket Internet, right? That was an interesting experience. And although I was not in sync or fast food was not a part of my life, I knew that expanding an international brand like that I worked with more than 30 countries with Burger King and Popeyes was going to be a great ride. And that's what kept me going forward, right? So I started in Latin America, then I moved to Switzerland. When I was in the Switzerland office, I was working with Russia and Middle East. Then I moved to Singapore, and I covered basically every country in Asia, apart from Australia and New Zealand. But I've done North, Central, South. And then I came into China. So it's been a great ride. And the burgers were part of it, but it wasn't the main reason to start with, to be honest. So what would I say to my younger self, 20 years? I think I would just say you should go to China as soon as possible, because I arrived here in 2019. Before that, I was coming here regularly when I was based in Singapore. But what happened here in the last few decades and what is still happening, it's really beautiful to witness. And I think we're privileged to see such a deep transformation of a society in such fast pace. I just wish I had come sooner and I had seen. I envy my friends that are here for 20 years and they tell me how the city looked like 20 years ago or how China was 20 years ago. And I unfortunately didn't see that. I just wish I had come sooner.
Actually, the question is the other way around. When the 20 years younger you would see where you are today, would he believe it? Would he think, wow, like I really made it?
Oh, right. Yeah. Sorry, I got it reversed.
But this is also both.
But it was also a great answer.
But to be honest, it's funny. It would be a little bit similar because another fun fact, I started my international career right after I graduated university, and I wanted to spend a year abroad. A lot of my friends were going to Europe or the US. I wanted to go to Asia already. And I ended up going to Taiwan. I lived in Taipei for a year, which was about 20 years ago, actually, 17 years ago. So I think there's a lot of similarities why I'm here in China today. So probably my younger self, right? Let me see if I'm doing this right this time. My younger version, which is the one that was in Taipei at that time, looking to me now would say, yeah, it all made sense. Like you went back where you should never have left, probably.
Yeah, cool. So happy to hear it. And the one sentence you said, I love to scale business. That is a sentence I would never say because I'm not the business guy, but Damian would also say, because this is also one of Damian's passions. And I guess it's also part of your history. You both graduated from the WHU business school, the famous German school. And there's also a saying, networking only harms those who don't do it. Netzwerken schadet nur demjenigen, der keins hat. So you also have a combined MBA from the Kellogg School of Management, Raphael. How has attending business school supported your career path? Or is it like just money thrown out of the window, what some people also claim?
Yeah. To me, and I think it varies a lot person to person, but to me, I would say it was really, really worth it. And let me also dive a little bit deeper on that. First of all, I did not do the typical full-time MBA that you do when you're a bit younger, right? Usually when you're around your mid-30s or mid-20s to late 20s. I actually did it when I was just before I moved to China. Actually, I was in between Switzerland and Singapore. So I was already in a certain level in my corporate life. So I did the executive program. So just for your listeners who may not be familiar with it. So we had a cohort of about 40 people. They were all within 10 to 15 years of experience from all over the world. And we would meet for 5 days every 6 weeks during a period of 2 years. So that's the program in a nutshell. And to me, that was super valuable because every 6 weeks, I would take a time off from work. I would really not, of course, you're on the emails and whatnot, but I would really deep dive in the studies and in the networking and listening these perspectives from different people in different industries in Fallendar, actually.
Oh, very beautiful. Good memories.
Yeah, exactly. And then I would go back to work, but I would start applying what I studied immediately. So if I came back from a really nice marketing module, I could start already applying those tools in what I was doing. So this mix of studying and applying it in real life really worked for me. And I think I was about to start my own business a few years after that. And I would say it did help me enormously from networking perspective, obviously, and even to build a more round up skills. Especially I'm not a finance guy by training, right? So the corporate finance programs, all of that was really, really helpful. There was one class in particular, if I remember, it was on the corporate structuring and M&A. The way I designed the entity structure of my business now was really a reflection of what I learned in that class. I remember vividly. And the last point for this question is one of my business partners today is a Raphael Coelho student from my cohort. And we started talking about Xsigma during the modules in 2018. Yeah, I did the program from 2018 to 2020. So I was thinking about that back then. And it's certainly, it is not cheap, but I think it was really valuable.
Well, that is certainly very, very positive and good feedback for our WHU. Our alma mater in Fallendar will be proud of us if they listen to that, which they might do. So that's great, Raphael. And I mean, we've met several times, as said, the first time when we were organizing the In Praxi event.
Exactly.
The last time when we were having another In Praxi event here at the McKinsey office with Daniel Zipser, right? Who's now the senior partner of McKinsey here in China. Yeah. Was also very interesting.
Yeah.
Now we are sitting here today in our office talking about the challenges. So what were the biggest challenges during your nearly 2 decades in the multinational companies and also, of course, including Rocket?
Personally, I would say that during a big part of my life, around 10 years, I was moving countries so much and I was traveling so much that I felt I'd spent more time on airports than at home. And that was a big challenge, right? Especially during that time in Burger King and Popeyes. So you're looking after, I think a lot of folks who work in multinational companies with a regional oversight will relate to that. You have 10, 15 markets, and you need to go face to face, on, a certain cadence. The bigger markets, you need to go once a month. The smaller markets, you can go once a quarter. But when you break that down into your schedule, that means you're going to 2 countries per week and you're always flying. I didn't enjoy that. Well, I enjoyed that in the beginning. But after a while, it starts to pay a hard price on your health, and it was hard for me. And also moving, right? Moving is complicated. So, for example, I arrived in Switzerland, right? And as you know, you need to put some effort to make friends and build your social life. I remember I missed the first winter. I said, I'm too busy here. I'm not going to do all the skiing every weekend. But, next winter, I'm going to go full on. I'm going to buy that nice package. We had like 30 minutes away, a nice ski resort. But I wasn't there next winter. I had moved to Singapore already, right? So I was moving countries every, 2 years or 1 year and a half. So that was challenging. That's one of the reasons I said, okay, I want to settle down in Shanghai for long because I'm tired of moving. And in the career itself, I think a lot of people in the corporate world, multinational world, when they leave, they will say the corporate politics is always a challenge, right? And I think it's not a challenge in terms of, I don't have any bad stories where, wow, this guy really stabbed me in the back and derailed my career, fortunately, because I've seen that happen with other folks. But it's just, I've always had this ownership mindset, as I'm sure you do as well, since you're focused on your own business and scaling businesses. And when you see that you're wasting time and resources in some meetings or PowerPoints that just shouldn't be there, it's a bit frustrating. It frustrates you, and it starts to frustrate you more and more, because the senior you get, the more you're exposed to how decision making is done in big companies. And it's not a fault of anyone, I think, in the leadership team. It's just how complicated things get when you get to a certain size. And if you are more entrepreneurial and you want to be more dynamic in the decision making, that can be challenging to your own emotional health, I would say, at some point, because you just want to get out of those meetings and do things, move fast, right? Make sure things move faster. I would say these were like those two. If I have to think about two big things, would be these two.
Yeah, before we go to your entrepreneurial stories, there's one question I'm really curious about. So we have McDonald's, we have Burger King, we have Popeyes, we have Shake Shack, we have a lot of change that Five Guys, a lot of chains that are not in Germany, not in Europe, but in China, and they do really good business in China. They're very successful and popular. A lot of Chinese students, a lot of Chinese biling office workers, they go to McDonald's, to Burger King for breakfast because it's very cheap, it's very affordable. So why is it that these American burger chains are so successful and popular in China?
Another very good question. First of all, I would say, in my view, it has nothing to do with the fact that they are American to the end consumer. I don't think that the end consumer, even in Germany or in China or in Brazil, would decide, I'm going to go there because it's an American brand. To be honest, I don't think that plays a big factor. What I think happened here is these brands in the US, due to a multitude of reasons, and if you want, we can go and explore that. They are concepts that are really well-rounded. They know what they stand for. They know what's their value proposition. They know who are their target customer. They are built for scale, and they have SOPs and standards. This makes it much easier to deploy in other markets. And I think if you want to tangent a little bit on that, I would say one of the reasons is that the market is big enough. So US is a large market. And it's prone for expansion. So you enable people to think with that mindset and scale things. Of course, the capital market, just a bit how friendly it is to do business, and all the incentives just make that happen. And then once you have this formula and you come to a market where this is not normal, that's not when you open a restaurant here in China, you don't. a lot of these folks, they don't think about, okay, what processes do I need to have in place to make sure this is a 1,000 restaurant chain? That's not usually what happens, right? And I think that's one of the reasons. But my final comment to this question is it's catching up. And I can see another trend happening, which is China is also a large enough market for scale. And if you look at the Chinese milk tea brands, which is a big thing here, I can see these brands going to the US or to Europe and working very well because they had to create a value proposition that makes sense, a product innovation system that makes sense, SOPs and standards. And they can really well deploy that in other markets, right? So I don't think it's because the American brands were structured like that, so they thrive when they go abroad. But I think big Chinese brands could do that. I actually think this is going to be a big trend if you fast forward 10 years from now. A lot of retail and consumer concepts here are going to be successful around the world because of the same factors that made US brands successful here.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a very interesting time we are about to witness. So I'm equally happy as you that we are in China and can see it from here. Right?
Exactly.
Moving abroad. And now, well, after that time at Popeyes, now Burger King and the other companies, you founded Xsigma Partners. What motivated you to do so and what problems do you solve?
I think the motivation goes back to this passion for scale, right? Passion for scale up. So I had a great time with Burger King, Popeyes, and before that with Rocket and all the scaling up processes that goes behind it. And I wanted to work with that, right? I was clear, and I wanted to work with that in industries that I enjoy, because I think this alignment is also important. If you're working in an industry that you actually are the customer yourself, you can also see from the customer perspective easier, and you can enjoy the process. So it made sense for me to then look at it. It also goes back to the question Thomas just asked. I see that there is a need for the structure and the standardization and all these things that make those international brands successful here. So I said, okay, we can actually work on scaling up retail brands here using the experience that I had before. So that was the motivation behind it, and also support the founders, because what we see is there's a lot of entrepreneurs in retail and consumers that they're really passionate about their product or the service. They know what they're doing very well, and they love that. But to scale the business takes much more than just offering a great product or experience. It takes the technology, the real estate and design and construction processes behind that. Operations. There's a lot of finance, legal. There's a lot of things, and most of the time, these entrepreneurs, they don't like to do that. They're not good at that. They could be good at that, but they're gonna put their time that is gonna be taken away from the product, which is the most important thing. And because myself and my partners, we actually enjoy that. Going back to the problem that we solve, I think this is one of the problems we solve. We help entrepreneurs scale their businesses by combining our unique strengths, which is their strength in the product and our strength in the processes behind scaling a business. I think this is one. But if I can elaborate on the problem side, there are other problems that I think we solve. Because I always I am structuring this as an ecosystem, right? In a way. So for example, for my operating partners, so we have senior people from that, like myself, came from many years in multinational companies, right? I have a head of technology, a head of expansion in real estate, a head of HR. All these people were successful in their careers. But they have this entrepreneurial mindset as well. They want to be part of something. They also were frustrated with the corporate politics that I mentioned before. So I think I help that solve the problem, because at some point you may get stagnant in your career, but you're looking for you're looking for more and you're looking to be part of the growth. So we can offer opportunity for this type of executives to join a platform that is much more entrepreneurial, right? And to last but not least, we also set up joint ventures to facilitate foreign brands to enter China. And I think this is a huge problem we solve also, because if a foreign brand wants to enter China, first of all, hard to set up the team, to choose the partner. There's a multitude of problems there that I think we help solve.
Oh, definitely. There's many problems to solve.
You know that very well. You're solving the same problem also.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
A typical Saturday for a person living in Shanghai in my age is you take your dog, you go meet with friends for brunch, and then in the afternoon, in the evening, you go to your fitness class or you go to the gym. And these are also the focuses you set for your portfolio. So what I saw online, you focus on fitness, you focus on pet care, and you focus on food and beverage. So are these, in your eyes, the industries in China with the biggest potential in the next decades?
All right. So, talking a bit about these industries, I think F&B, right, Thomas? F&B is very broad. So if we just look at from a broad perspective, it's a very mature industry, I would say. It is growing. It's still growing. But if we look specifically on the fitness and on the pet, I would definitely agree with what you said. I think our bet is on the extreme growth of these segments. And without throwing too many numbers or analysis, but just when you look at the penetration of these industries in the population of China compared to any other market in the Western world or even in Australia, there's a huge gap. Sometimes it's half or less than half, which indicates that as middle class continues to grow, and it will, these industries are poisoned to maybe double or triple their size. That's for sure. And in F&B, the industry is very big. So then we are being careful to also pick on the high growth segments within F&B. So there's a multitude of concepts around healthy food that we're interested to develop and that we've been working on. The offer is not as developed as it is in other places. So yes. So the thesis is to look into industries that are growing fast, and also industries or segments of the industries where they're not as big, and it's hard to build scale when your industry, for example, fast food is a great example. Fast food, you can, if you're successful with one brand, you can easily have thousands of stores in China, right? For the listeners who are not familiar with the market, KFC, the fried chicken brand, has 10,000 stores in China. And they're still growing about 500 to 800 a year. They haven't stopped growing. And that goes to a lot of other brands. But then if you think about another niche of food, whatever it may be, maybe you can say, I cannot open 5,000, but I could do 100, right? However, it's really hard for you to exit when you have a business of 100 sometimes. It's hard to go from 1 to 100, and the exit is not going to be as strong. But if you combine 2 to 3 food concepts that each can have 100 or 150, then you create a very solid platform of food, right? And that's what we're trying to do. When you mentioned that the consumers are similar, that's exactly the reason why, where we're targeting to, let's say, 20 to 45, mostly women, high middle class with high disposable income, high international background. And they are the ones who will go to the fitness studio. They probably have pets and they would like to enjoy food in these concepts. So yeah, it is by design. The thesis is exactly around that.
No, makes sense. So you touched a little bit upon that already, but to follow up on that, what criteria do you use to decide which startup and founders to support through your Xsigma Partners?
Right. So I'll divide this in 2 parts. So one part is when we scale up a local concept, right? which is something is already existing in China. We identified that and we partner with the entrepreneur and the founder to scale up. And in this process, we, of course, look a lot into the founder, right? The founder, him or herself, and the concept. So is the concept great? Is it unique? Does the founder want to scale? Because sometimes there are a lot of entrepreneurs who, I have my thing. I want to keep it that way. I don't want the troubles and the pain of scaling. Then, of course, it doesn't make sense for us to work with. But if you have a great concept and you want to scale, then the second thing we look is how does that perform in terms of revenue in the 1, 2 to 10 units that they have. And then we see what kind of skills or processes would be needed to help scale this business, right? And then when we do this 3 assessment, we're looking for the perfect synergy of value where what they need is what we can offer. So that's one. And then from the international brand perspective, then it's all about the concept and the product of this brand and how much potential we believe that this has in China. And also whether this brand is willing to be all in. I receive on a weekly basis requests of, I want to enter China and I'm looking for a partner. But I've been in this for a long time. And I know that if you just want to sign a master franchise partner that is going to take the rights and do all the work, that doesn't make sense. So we prefer to work with brands who say, hey, I see China as a long-term potential. I want to really win in China in a 10-year plan. And I know that to do that, I need to commit capital. I need to have my management paying attention and giving the support to China. And then we set up a joint venture to actually work together because there's innumerous examples of brands who came, they test the waters, they try a little bit. And if you come to China just to try, there's a high chance you're going to fail. You need to have a commitment to win in the market. But guess what? It's one of the largest markets. So it's worth having this commitment because if you win, you're going to win big.
Winning big. Can you give us a specific example of someone you worked with who is in the process of winning big? Because you said it's like about decades, but where you see, okay, they are in the market, they started their process, and you're very optimistic that they will win big, maybe in 5 or 10 years. And in this, also with this question, you can tell us a little bit what the biggest challenges for this brand or this company were.
Yeah, or I can just say a few examples that are visible to everyone. So let's say, for example, one brand from the family, right, that I worked with before, the coffee brand, right, Tim Hortons. I think it's an interesting example. They came in 2018. It's a Canadian coffee brand, guys. Let's be honest. Nobody heard of this before.
I made a video about them also.
Oh, you did also?
It was also quite successful.
Okay,
yes.
This one I didn't watch, so I'll watch later and check. So it's part of...
With my Canadian friend.
Okay.
We have friends everywhere.
Okay. Well, it happens to be a coffee brand and part of the RBI portfolio also, right? So I wasn't particularly involved in Tim Hortons at that time, but I was in the company. So I witnessed what happened. So they had a very strong partner that deployed and committed a lot of capital. They set up a really senior, great team with great track record. So it wasn't like, hey, let's open 10 stores and see what happens. Maybe we throw in like a few $1 million and then we do a test. No. They said, okay, let's commit to, I'm saying hundreds of millions of dollars and a big team and let's make this happen. And let's open stores until the brand awareness and the convenience to consumers is high enough that we're going to reach that critical mass. So fast forward, that was 2018. In 2022, they IPO'd the China business, just the China business. Right. So that's 4 years, right? That's how fast they are. But I've seen other, and I don't want to, mention the brands that didn't do so well, but there are other brands who they open a few stores, then they leave, or they open a few stores and just stay like that and never grow. But in the offline retail, brand awareness is important, and economies of scale are very important. So if you don't make the jump, you're not going to have a successful business.
Taco Bell is an interesting business case also. I remember when they opened their first store in Lujiazui, I think. I went there for the opening. They invited me. And after a year or so, they closed the store again. And then a couple of years later, they came again. And now they have just, I think, 2 or 3 stores. I think they are like a business case, as you said. They opened some stores, but they're not really scaling, right?
Right, but they reached about, last count that I know of, Taco Bell in China is around 70 to 80 locations. So they're getting they're getting into a nice critical mass. But it goes back to my point earlier, Thomas. Who is their partner in China? Yum China. Yum China is a massive company. With 15,000 restaurants listed in the US, right? With a market cap of $20 billion or something like that. So it is another good example where I think it would be very hard if the executives of Taco Bell said, let's go there, open 5 restaurants and see what happens, because it takes time. It takes time. It takes time for a lot of things. It takes time for you to tweak your menu, because you're going to usually open with your core menu, and you're going to innovate based on what? On focus groups that you do before? No, definitely not. I wouldn't recommend to do that. You need to innovate based on real consumer feedback, and you need to test and learn, and you need to do multiple iterations over time, right? And the same goes for stabilizing your staff and training your staff. So a lot of things take time.
Absolutely. Well, and obviously one of the things which are crucial to winning in the market is having the right marketing strategy, I suppose. So What marketing strategies have you found to be most effective for introducing and growing foreign brands here in China?
Right. Well, in our industry right now, so we are in boutique fitness studios, right? So it's group classes of single modality, right? So we're talking about yoga or Pilates or bar or boxing, and then for pet is also a pet retail store. What we learned is the best thing that you can do is focus on the experience and your product. Don't spend too much on marketing in the beginning, and let the consumers themselves recommend you. So I still think that we call MGM, because then you need to facilitate that through a good digital experience. So even though it's a small brand, we actually overinvest in technology in the beginning to make sure you have the best digital ecosystem that you could have. Good conversion from social media to your own app. The UI UX should be top notch. It should enable you to recommend this to someone. It should incentivize you to do that. And it should reward whoever you recommend it to. So if you do that properly and with a good digital experience, that's the best marketing that you can get, the best retention and the best marketing you can get. And then go to social media, obviously. And then here you need to navigate well. The platforms are very different from the social media platforms in the Western world. That's what I see. And then, that's what we're doing now. And I think in my previous life with the restaurant brands, once you get to a certain scale, then the game changes, because, you need the reach of your message, has to be bigger, but then your ROI is also good, because you have a big network of stores. So if you have a small network, it's useless to spend too much, because you're not going to reap the benefits, of your marketing investment. So, I would say different moments of the journey of the brand will require a different approach. We are now in early stage with our brands. So we're focusing on consumer experience, recommendation with a good digital, ecosystem and social media.
And where do you see yourself and your company Xsigma Partners in 10 years? What are your long-term goals?
Well, 10 years is a good mark. That's how we're thinking also. We don't think like next year or 2 years because it's a long journey. I would say having a good portfolio of brands is what we're doing right now. So we're building the portfolio. So in fitness, we have 2 brands. We are in active discussions with the third and the fourth. And in pets, we have a brand now. And for F&B, we're in active discussions with a few. So I think once we have 2 to 3 brands per each of these segments, it's going to be all about growing them in China, right? So focus on unit growth, the team structure, and all of that. So my hope is that in 10 years, we have literally a healthy portfolio of brands, right? So they're not only healthy in the products and service, but also they're healthy on their profitability and also international expansion. So the holding company is actually set up in Singapore because if you look after 10 years, Southeast Asia is your next big thing, and is your next big thing, especially for this type of brands and this type of consumer, right? So we also want to deploy the same process that was successfully done in China to then some of the key markets in Southeast Asia. And the good thing is that most of these brands that we're working on, we are not the franchisee. We are actually the franchisor. We don't franchise, but we own the brand. So we could travel these concepts to multiple countries, and that's what we want to do later also.
I'm very sure you will be really, really successful in 10 years. And I hope that our podcast will also be still there in 10 years, Damian. We have to be hardworking and find good content, good interview partners, but I'm sure that we will succeed. And thank you so much, Raphael, for this very valuable insights. I learned a lot.
Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for the tough questions.
Our pleasure, Raphael. And it was great seeing you here, and hope to see you soon. Latest also at the next nice update that you were giving about your companies, where I will hopefully join again as well.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, guys.